Hello, my name is Masha, and today I want to teach you how to make this gorgeous friendship bracelet. This is absolutely one of my new favorite friendship bracelets. I really enjoyed it, and I love the way that it turned out. It's always so fun to make these kind of illusion, effect bracelets. I love it, and I also love that it's a candy stripe, but then the border goes the other way, and you can, I love patterns like this. It was a lot of fun to make, and I knew I had to teach you how to make it. This bracelet is actually very easy. There's only 2 rows to it, and it's very simple. There's not even any reverse knots in this one. That said, I wouldn't recommend this if you're just starting out, just because in this tutorial, I don't explain how to make the knots. I expect that you already know how to do them. I have a separate tutorial for that. I'll leave it linked in case you don't know. And I would recommend starting with an easier bracelet. But if you've made a couple of bracelets before, you can definitely jump into this one. I have plenty of resources for beginners, playlists, and videos, and my book, The Beginner's Guide to Friendship Bracelet, is also now out. My book has plenty of beginner information, and it takes you all the way through complex stuff as well, so you can kind of pick it up at any point, really. It's available for purchase anywhere in the world, anywhere you typically buy books, and there's also a direct link in the description. That said, let's get into this tutorial. For this bracelet, you will need 7 colors. For each of the colors, cut 2 strings, each about 1 meter in length. These are the colors that I'm going with. I have now cut my strings, and I have done a half triangle start to my bracelet. You don't have to do a half triangle start or half triangle end to begin your bracelet, though I do recommend it. I think it looks really cool. You just have to have your strings in the order that I have them. And that's also the same information that you need in order to do a half triangle start if you want to do one. I have a separate tutorial on how to make them, and the only thing that you need to know from this tutorial is the string order, which is just the order in which you want the colors to appear in the bracelet. So for me, that's the rainbow colors, and I've got 2 strings of pink, 2 strings of orange, 2 strings of yellow, and so on until the end of my bracelet. One more interesting thing about how I did my half triangle start is I actually did forward knots onto the bundle until I reached the end of my strings, and then I flipped my bracelet, so the knots from the half triangle start are actually on the back and they're hidden. And here I've got a knotless beginning. You don't have to do that if you like the look of the knots, you can just keep them. I actually alternate. Sometimes I keep them, sometimes I don't, depending on how I feel like doing it that time. But if you want to do it the other way, then you'll do backward knots. The main thing is that your strings need to be pointing in that direction because we're going to be doing forward knots in this tutorial. So however you do it, just make sure that your strings are pointing this way. And of course, don't forget to leave 10 to 15 centimeters of string in order to make ties out of later. Mine are just out of frame above. And then I've also taped this string down to my table as well. It helps me when I'm filming just to keep this string secure, but it could potentially help you when you're knotting as well, especially in the beginning. It's kind of hard to keep the shape in the beginning. That said, let's get into the tutorial. Believe it or not, there's only 2 repeating rows to this pattern. It's a very simple pattern, and we're going to be making it in a candy stripe fashion. There's other ways of doing it. There's no right or wrong in terms of segment knotting. Whatever works. There's other ways of reading this pattern. I just think the candy stripe way is the easiest to explain, the easiest to remember, and thus probably the easiest to repeat over and over. So let's get started. With the first row, we're going to start with the outermost strings on the left, and we're simply going to do a backward knot between these 2 strings. It doesn't really matter what knot you do between 2 strings of the same color, but in order to keep it consistent, I'm just going to do a backward knot. Now this string, the one we just made a backward knot onto, is going to be playing a big part in this row. Pretty much it's either going to have other strings make backward knots onto it, or it's going to be making forward knots on other strings. But this string is the main player in row 1. So for the next step, we're going to take the following string, this orange one in my case, and it's going to make a backward knot onto the pink string. So essentially, we just made 2 backward knots onto this string, first with the first pink string and then with the orange string. So 2 backward knots onto this pink string for the first step. Then this pink string is going to do 3 forward knots onto the following 3 strings. For me, that's the next orange string and the 2 yellow strings. So the pink string does 3 forward knots. The following 2 strings are each going to make a backward knot onto the pink string. These are the strings that are going to form the heart. So my first heart is going to be a green heart, except we're kind of cutting it off a little bit because it's just the first row, so it won't be a full heart, but still. 2 backward knots with the green strings onto the pink string. As I was making those backward knots with the green strings, something happened to my yellow string. We just did those 3 forward knots with the pink string, but this bit here, I don't know how well you can see, but I've got just a little pop of color coming through in my pink knot, and I shouldn't have yellow there. So what I'm going to do to fix that is I'm going to grab that yellow string that's popping through there and very lightly and carefully tug on it. Sorry, I covered the knot there, but I lightly tugged on it, and now there's no pop of color anymore. The yellow string has come out. So that's how you fix that issue. All right, next with the pink string, we are gonna make 4 forward knots. For me, those are the 2 light blue strings and the 2 dark blue strings. 4 forward knots with the pink string. And to conclude the first row, the last 2 strings are going to make backward knots onto the pink string. So 2 backward knots onto our string. Onto row 2. Similar concept with row 2. We have 1 string, which is this pink string, that is going to be our through line for the entire row. It's either going to be making forward knots or it's going to have backward knots made onto it. That's just generally how this pattern works, and it's going to be a continuous theme. So for the first step, we take 2 strings following it, which are the 2 orange strings, and these 2 strings are going to be making backward knots onto the pink string. So 2 backward knots for the first step. Next, our pink string is going to make 5 forward knots. If it's easier to remember, rather than counting out 5 strings, pick the color that you just made the heart with. For me, it was the green. So the last string for that color is here. Take 1 more string after that, and you've got 5 strings. So whichever is easier to remember, either 5 strings or 1 more than the last heart color. 5 forward knots. Next, we just have 1 backward knot, and this is actually going to be the next heart color. 1 backward knot. And then we do 3 forward knots with the pink string. And for the last step of this row, and of the repeating pattern, we make 2 backward knots onto this string. And that is it. It may not look like much, but that is the entire repeating pattern. Continue repeating those 2 rows over and over again until the bracelet reaches the length that you want it to be. Once you're done, finish with another half triangle end, and then you're ready to create the ties. I'm gonna go finish this bracelet off camera, and I'll see you once I'm done. And here is my final bracelet. I love this one. I love how it turned out, especially at the starts as well. I think it's so fun to start and finish bracelets with triangle ends and even half triangle ends because they line up, and I just think that's just so cool. I finished my bracelet with twisted ties as well on each side. I have a separate tutorial for that. It's very easy to do actually, so I'll leave that linked in the description. This is one of my new favorite bracelets. I had a lot of fun making it. I actually didn't get bored. I typically get bored of repetitive patterns like this, but this was actually really fun to make for me, so I highly recommend it. There's timestamps in the description for you to skip around the tutorial, rewind to any bits that you need, and if you have any questions, definitely leave them in the comments. I'll try to answer as many as I can. I had a lot of fun with this one. I've been filming a bunch of tutorials lately as well, so there's definitely more videos coming, so stick around. I have a playlist filled with tutorials as well. I'll leave that linked in the description in case you want more. And also my book, The Beginner's Guide to Friendship Bracelets, is now out worldwide. You can buy it anywhere you typically buy books, but there's also a direct link in the description in case you want to purchase it there. Before I go, I want to give a special shout out to my patrons, and especially my top supporters. It is with their support that I'm able to create the videos that I do on this channel. If you also want to support the work that I do here, which would be greatly appreciated, the link to that is in the description. But in any case, I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!